everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's Joni, and if you're new here, thanks for joining. Today I'm going to show you how to paint this pretty landscape, and I'm using my collection of neon luminous acrylics. These are by Holbein. We're working on a 12 by 16 canvas, and I've got a number 12 Pro Stroke large flat brush I'll begin the painting with. So here's my palette with all my colors. If I add any more, I'll be sure to list them below with everything else in my description below this video. I'll begin by taking yellow, and I'm going to start sort of on an angle, just making large scoops, pulling and blending. Then I'm going to take the next color, which is my light orange, neon orange. And then I'm going to take a brighter orange. And I'm going to keep adding my neons. I'm going to take my neon pink next. Now once I add this, I'm going to take it around the sides and the top a little bit. I'll come in with a little bit down below. And then I'll be switching over to a large round chalk brush. A 2-inch or 3-inch will work just fine. And if you don't have this brush, that's okay. You can use any large blending brush that you have. And I'm just barely touching the canvas and the paint, lightly pulling and sweeping. And next I'm going to come in with a little bit of titanium white, and just a very, very small amount. Just a little dab like that. This will just create a few other pastel tones in the sky. It looks really pretty with that pink. And I'm going to switch over to another round stippling mop type of brush. And I'm going to take my ultramarine blue with some titanium white, tap them together, and I'll make light blue violet with this. And I'm going to start coming in with some bushes and trees now. Pushing and tapping gently with the tip of my brush. Now I'm going to start twirling my brush around, dusting and making little soft circles to get more of a blended look on this side. And then I'll do the same thing on the bottom of the trees and the bushes on the left side. Without washing my brush, I'm going to go right into that luminous rose. This is my new favorite color from the Holbein Neon Luminous series. It's just beautiful. So I'm lightly tapping and layering over that light blue violet and building up my foliage and my bushes. Without washing my brush off, I'm going to go right into that sap green, or that hooker's green. And my brush still has a little bit of that rose, that luminous rose on it, which is okay. I want to make a really deep, rich green foliage color here. So I'm going to overlap, not completely covering up that rose in the background, but I'm going to put another layer, some more trees here over top or in front of. So here I've got straight neon yellow. I guess it's mixing in a little bit with what I've got left over in my brush. And I'm going to come in with more of my yellow and start tapping some really pretty colors back there. I'm just tapping into all of them, making different shades and hues. So where I'm picking up the yellow and the pink, it's making sort of like a burnt orange color, and then I'm getting a little bit of that sap green in there too. So it's making all sorts of interesting colors, making it look very natural. Then I'm going to go into my water, dip my brush in, get my brush wet, and kind of just pinch and squeeze off drips on the top, right off the top of the canvas. Then I'm going to go right into more of my luminous rose and do another layer of bushes and trees. Now I'm going to go right into my neon pink. So I've got neon luminous rose and neon pink, and you can just see all these gorgeous neon colors look so pretty together, mixed with those more earthy tones and muddy tones like the sap green. And I just think all these colors look really, really well together, and they complement each other. So I'm just going to continue to layer them, and you can do this with any colors. You don't have to have neons. I am using neon orange now. I've got two different neon oranges. One's a lighter one, and then one's a little bit more on the reddish orangey side. I will list all of them below for you guys in the description. So I'm going to take my orange and my sap green now, mix the two together, twirling and rolling my brush with a little bit of water. And I'm going to come in with my little tree trunks and branches, kind of wiggling and being a little bit shaky so I get them to look really natural. Okay, now I'm going to come in with titanium white and ultramarine blue, and I'm going to start adding a few little small tree trunks overlapping with this blue. It looks really nice with the other colors. I'll add a little bit in the foreground, and then I'm going to switch over to one of my smallest fan brushes. I'm going to load my brush both sides, pulling and turning and twisting my brush to load into that light blue that I made. And I'm going to start tapping lightly, sort of in a little U shape, kind of a scoop shape, giving these tree branches a little bit of flow and whimsy. And just tap on either side all the way up to the top of the canvas. And then I'll start adding some down a little bit lower, right down on the ground. And I'll be sweeping some of the colors down below here as well. This way when we come in with our staircase, we'll have all those pretty colors that surrounds the staircase reflecting and highlighting on the top of the stairs. So I'm going to take my luminous rose with my phthalo blue now, and I'm going to make a pretty violet color, and I'm going to start overlapping with another tree on the far right. I'll pull down for a skinny tree trunk and then start tapping in. So I'm just going to start tapping in that violet color that I made. And then I'll pick up some of my neon pink and add some of that as well. And then what I'll do is sort of pull and blend and sweep with my brush after I do this. Sort of an abstract technique that I'll be doing down here to give it a bit of a blurry, smeared look. Now after washing off my brush and drying it, I'm just going to very lightly scumble off some of the paint, exposing the first layer of paint that I had down there, which is a really, really light green yellow, and then kind of like a light orange under here. I just think it looks really interesting and creates a nice type of light, natural light. Then I'm going to come on over here and tap in a little bit of white on top of my violet that's still wet, so I'm making a pastel shade right here, which is really pretty. And this forest just goes on and on and on. And I'm going to make a really soft bubblegum pink pastel color with my neon pink and white. And I'm going to start tapping in a little bit of foliage down here. Okay, once I've done that, then I'm going to go in for straight neon pink now without washing my brush off. I'll overlap slightly on that light pink, and I'm going to start getting bolder with color in that area. But first I'm going to come down here and pull and blend a little bit more. Now I'm going to get my brush really wet and just squeeze all that paint and that water off the top of my canvas and let it just drip and flow down the canvas naturally. While that's happening, I'm going to start the first base of our stairs. I'm going to start adding some little lines with my light blue violet, more white than blue, of course. And I'm just going to softly start coming in, sliding my brush back and forth, wider, longer lines as they get closer to us in the foreground. And then take a liner brush and pull tiny little lines in for the idea that maybe there's a bridge. It kind of goes up on an arch. See that? It could be a little bridge back there. So we're just adding like a little fence or a little railing, and then the railing just stops right there. We're not going to bring that down all the way to the foreground. I'll pull my brush the opposite way to create little lines. Then I wash my brush off and I'm going to come in with one of my mop brushes and I'm going to tap in. Now my brush was dry, I didn't get it wet first. Tapping into sap green and phthalo blue. This is one of my favorite color combos for foliage. I just love it. It's so rich, and why not do this instead of black? It's so much prettier. I'm not getting my brush wet at all. I'm just going to keep layering my colors in. And I'll be highlighting a little bit with some white. I'll be adding a little bit of white to my brush. I've still got a lot of paint in there, as you can see. It's very subtle, those highlights. It's not going to be super bright. Back over to my liner brush. I'm going to start pulling in some little tree branches and little tree trunks. Kind of just pulling and wiggling in all directions, making it look as natural as I can. Now, without washing my brush off, I'm just going to go in and scoop up some of my neon yellow with a tiny bit of titanium white, and I'm going to pull and drag to make it look like highlights down on the bottom and some moss maybe hanging, just some pretty highlights right underneath here. And then I'm going to work a little bit on a tree trunk over on this side, and then gently blend it out with just my little flat brush, or any flat brush or filbert brush will work for this. Just kind of making the bottom of it look a little bit more blurry and blended. And then I'm going to come in and add that dark green mixed with my luminous rose for a shadow on that tree trunk on the far right, as well as my stairs. So I'm really coming in with the dark contrast now, the shadows. I'm going to come back in with another dry mop brush and some more of that phthalo and sap green, and I'm just going to start tapping really lightly on either side of the staircase. So I'm going to continue adding some highlights, again just with my yellow and a little bit of white and the green that's left over in my brush. And then I'm going to take some of my phthalo green and a little bit of white. I don't want it to look too bright. I want to have kind of a mid-tone in shadow here, just to make these show up a little bit more, and I think this looks really, really pretty. I'm going to switch over to an oval mop. I really love this brush. It makes great little bushes and highlights. So I'm going to take a bit of white, a little bit of phthalo, mix it up, load my brush up really well, push and kind of wiggle and smush it in there. Then I'm going to come in here on the side on a slant. See how I've got it on a slant diagonal like that? This is going to give some really nice perspective to our garden. Okay, I'm now going to take my ultramarine blue, titanium white, blend the two together to make a light blue violet shade, and I'm going to come in and add this on the left side. It's going to start to blend up in those drippy tree trunks of the light bubblegum pink, and that will make a really pretty lavender color. I picked up a little bit of titanium white, and I'm going to lightly add another layer of flowers right in here. This is one of those paintings that is so enjoyable to create. You're going to really, really have fun with this one, you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and take some more of my luminous neon rose now. And I'm going to come in with a really beautiful flower bush right down here. I'm just going to start lightly tapping and layering over all those other colors. And then I'm going to do a few little highlights with a bit of white in there mixed in. Then I'm going to go to a small flat brush with my light pink that I just made, the luminous rose and white, or the neon pink and white will work as well. We're just going to start adding some pretty highlights to our stairs. And I'm going to go in and even out my shadow lines. I'm going to go back to my mini fan brush and I'm going to take sap green and my neon red now, load both sides, pulling and turning and tapping. And I'm going to make a really pretty maple tree that's going to have some bright, bright leaves on it. But we're starting with this color for the base. So again, that was sap green with neon red. If you don't have neon red, you can use cadmium red or even crimson red. So now I've got my lighter brush with a little bit of neon yellow and titanium white. I'm going to add some really bright, pretty highlights there in the center and a few more in around this garden arch. I'm going to add a few little dabs of that neon yellow on the ends of the leaves of this maple tree, and then I'm going to add a little bit on the green area over here and just tap and wiggle and blend slightly just to make this area show up a little bit more. I'm going to tap in with my Filbert brush here, create a few more areas of shadow. This will help our highlight stand out a little bit more. Now back to my mop brush and my neon pink. I'm going to do another layer very, very lightly and build up my flower bushes here in the foreground. And I'm going to add a combination of neon orange, neon red, and even a little hint of neon pink on this maple tree. Now with my smallest mop brush, I'm just doing some more little bushes and highlights along the sides of the stairs, white and green and yellow. Now with a clean mop brush, I've got a little bit of my neon orange and white. I'm going to soften these bold colored trees that should be more in the distance and faded and softer looking. So I'm just adding a little bit more white in here with my neon orange. And I'm going going to apply another layer, building up some more foliage and bushes here. This is going to give us a real soft, layered look to our garden. Adding my next layer of highlights on my flower bush here with neon pink and a little bit of white. I'll then go on to adding a little highlight and some more color on the tops of the stairs. I'm going to add a little bit of that neon pink and white off in the distance there, and then I'm going to come in with a tiny bit of sap green just to give some delicate looking little branches. Now taking neon yellow and white only, I'm going to add another layer of highlights. Then I'm going to use straight neon only and do a filter, creating a really beautiful emerald looking green. And I'm going to come in and start creating some really pretty looking delphiniums or foxgloves, some of my favorite flowers. I'll be using a few different colors for these. I'll be doing some of them with neon yellow and white, and I'll be using my small flat brush for this. You could use almost any brush you want for this. You could use a fan brush even, and you can use a liner brush, a round brush. A flat brush works just fine for this though. I'm just pushing and tapping with the corner of my brush to create those little flower petals. And then I'm going to do a few flowers in blue and white as well. I'm going to add the suggestion of a few birds flying way back there, just adding a little bit more to this branch here, but with my liner brush and a little bit of orange and green and water. You can barely see them, but I'm just creating a few little arches with my brush, kind of like a V or an M. And that's really all you need. It's so simple to create little birds. And it just adds that extra little bit of peacefulness to a painting, I think. So I'm going to add the final touches to this painting. I'm going to even out these stairs just a little bit more, but I'm not going to get too detailed and worried about it. I think it looks really charming, and not everything has to be straight in an old garden like this. It's got character to it, and the flowers are even on an angle. I just love everything about this painting, and I know you guys are going to enjoy painting this along with me. So I'm just going to continue to add more flowers here using my neon pink and my luminous rose. I'm just having a ball with these new paints today. So I added another highlight of orange and a little bit of yellow on my maple tree. And I'm going to add the finishing touches to this painting before I call it done. So a little bit more of my ultramarine blue. Okay, now I'm just going to take a little bit of my neon blue and my pink, taking sort of that purple color again, just dabbing and tapping on the top and wiggling, and then I'm going to come in with my flat brush or Filbert brush and pull and sweep down. I've got a little Filbert brush here. A flat brush will work too, and just pulling and sweeping for a little bit of moss coming off right up from the top. So this painting is all finished. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today. Happy painting, and I'll see you next time in another video. Bye, everyone.